Fund. I am Pallavi Madhok and I'm your host for this webinar. And today we'll be exploring the concept of women-centered design, and we'll highlight how to use this technique to develop gender-responsive and impactful products. I will also be joined by my co-host, Mr. Sajid Ali Shah, the MD of Safco Microfinance, who will be sharing with us his experience in designing gender-responsive products. And in the second half of the webinar, you will get a chance to try your hand in designing some of these products too. But before that, I'd like to welcome my colleague Nawal Alal, team leader at the technical assistance of the GGSF, to tell us a little bit about the fund and the facility. Nawal?
Thank you very much, Pallavi. Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. Depends on where you were in the world. I just wanted to briefly introduce GGSF to those of you that are not familiar with it. So it's the Global Gender Smart Fund, and it's actually the biggest investment fund that is dedicated to gender equality, with the aim to bridge the finance gap of the $1.7 trillion US. So the way GGSF does it, basically, it is a debt fund that is providing loans to financial institutions. And in doing so, of course, it aims to serve this segment. But not only that, it also helps financial institutions into adequately serving women-led and women-owned SMEs as they miss out on roughly 700 billion US dollars in not serving that specific segment. So the way gender is integrated in the fund is that as part of the due diligence in that investment phase, we conduct gender assessment and of course develop afterwards gender action plans to then guide the gender work that the financial institutions will do. And of course this is supported by technical assistance. That is a consortium of two organizations that are NIRAS and Women World Banking. Next slide, please. So before I let you deep dive into the women-centered design, and I'm sure Pallavi will walk you through that, we just wanted to share a few results that the fund has achieved in the past 2 years. I'm not necessarily going to go into details because that might take a lot of time, but just wanted to highlight the social performance, especially the gender equality related one. So 58% of the financial institutions' target client are women. At organizational level, respectively, 30% and 35% of women are at the financial institution boards and also part of the senior management. And that leaves us also back at portfolio level of 300,000, 21 and 400 clients reached by the GGSF funding. So I'll pass it on over to you, Pallavi, but if you have any GGSF related questions, please look at our website or LinkedIn page and feel free to reach out. We'll be happy to discuss that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nawal. And back to women-centered design. And before we jump in, I have a quick poll to understand what you think about the topic. Nawal, will you be able to throw up? It's 2 questions that should show up on your screen now. And if you can just take a minute to answer this. Okay, lovely. So I'm going to end the poll now. And what you see on your screens is what we're going to deep dive in on the first one, on what is women-centered design. And of course, I also hope to answer the second one, which would get answered actually through our presentation. So what is women-centered design? Women-centered design is actually a philosophy. It's a philosophy in which we look to design keeping 2 broad objectives in mind. Design solutions, design products. The first objective is, how can we design a solution that really works for our customers, in this case, women customers. And here we're looking to really understand the barriers and challenges that women face in financial, with respect to accessing and using financial products. And we really look to drive engagement and thereby impact when we design solutions that work for women customers. At the same time, we have a twin objective that we need to meet when we are looking to design solutions. That is designing for the business. Because what we really also want to understand is where value is added for a financial product, what makes sense for a business. Will the business be able to take this program ahead on their own? Will it be commercially viable for them to drive scale? And therefore, when we meet both twin objectives, we develop solutions that are commercially viable solutions, but also solutions that enable low-income women to advance their security and prosperity. So that's really the philosophy of women-centered design. This can be divided into five steps in a process. And so it really helps us understand how we achieve the end state. These are the 5 steps. The first is the define step, then the diagnose, the design, the pilot, and the scale. And in each of the steps, what we're looking to do is fulfill both the customer objective and the business objective simultaneously. For example, at the define stage, while we're looking to align on the customer problem, we also want to solve the burning business problem. While we look to understand in the diagnose stage the customer's perspective, her challenges, her barriers, simultaneously, we're looking to understand what are the challenges the business needs to face? What are the challenges an agent faces in serving women customers? Or how is the branch dealing with women customers? When we are designing the final solution, we want to design solutions that are based on customer insight that can bring about behavior change. But we also want to design solutions that can build value, customer lifetime value, or bring about a return on investment for the business. At the pilot stage, we're looking to validate the design. Did the solution that we design actually bring about customer behavior change in the field? And for the business, we're really looking to understand when we took it live, what are the operational gaps? Is there something that we need to change or improve for it to be actually work in the field? And finally, when we are looking to scale the solution, we're looking for behavior change at scale. And for the business, we're looking to roll out a commercially viable solution. So at each of these stages from the customer side, the questions we're asking ourselves right through these 5 stages are, does it address the core barriers of the customer? Does the customer understand the solution? Was the solution effective for her? And are customers willing to invest time in using the solution? Will it bring about behavior change over time? And for the business, what we're looking at, that we ask ourselves is the solution creating value? Is it achieving the strategic objectives of a financial service provider? Will it get buy-in from management? It's something we're forever asking ourselves. Will the management be intentional about the program? Will they want to roll it out at scale? And will it deliver value for them in the long term? While these are the questions, which are very process-oriented, and many of us, are very good when it comes to a process map, a checklist, toolkits. But women-centered design is much more than a series of steps. In fact, all the 5-6 years that I've worked in this field, what I've really understood are these 5 core values that make women-centered design different from just a series of steps. And I'd like to touch upon all 5 of them one by one. The first one, and very important one, is empathy. To genuinely develop a program or a product that works for women and businesses, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the customer or the agent or the branch manager. And for us to put ourselves in their shoes, we need to be in the field, we need to do research, we need to understand their needs and the context that they work in. So this is really important. And a lot of our effort goes into building empathy for the end customer and the business partner. The next 2 kind of go hand in hand, which is integrative thinking and collaboration. Most of the problems we solve are what we call wicked problems. They're not easy to solve. So you really need to think out of the box. And with integrative thinking and collaboration, you can really think out of the box. Because when we're solving a problem, we like to look at it from various aspects. In an ideation session on a financial product, we have someone from the collections team, from someone from sales, someone from marketing or credit. And so the integration of ideas actually helps us develop solutions that are whole and different. And similarly, when we work in the field with our practitioners, with the financial service providers, we do collaborate to get experts from various other disciplines to also help us come up with innovative solutions. And finally, experimentation is at the heart of women-centered design because this is a wicked problem. For 5 or 6 times we try, it's possibly once or twice that we'll be successful. And possibly 3 or 4 parts of the solution may actually fail, and we're okay with that. So embracing failure to actually solve a difficult problem is critical. And therefore our pilots are designed for us to understand what worked, but also what did not. And finally, yes, and this is the heart of it, organizations like us and like you have been working in this field for many years. So there's always potential to build on other ideas and learn from what's working in the field and take it to the next level. And so I'm hoping that today's session, including that SAFCO will share their learnings with, will inspire you to take what you have already in your organizations ahead and beyond. So these are the 5 values that really make women-centered design tick. In summary, women-centered design is a systematic process. It's an iterative process too. We keep improving it. And it's a beautiful process for problem solving. But it's also a mindset that integrates both the customer and the business to drive decision making. There are toolkits that organizations have designed. Women's World Banking has a ready toolkit that can help you in women-centered design with a lot of tools and methods to take you through each of these 5 stages. So please Google that and check that out. But most importantly, and this is the question I keep getting asked, and this is one of the poll questions, does women-centered design only work for women? And the answer is not really. It works for everyone. Because when you design for women, you are actually addressing the needs of nearly everyone because you're designing to address all the barriers in the system. And therefore, women-centered design works for everyone, women and men. I have a couple of examples, and these are examples to showcase that women-centered design works across products. You can use women-centered design to improve your payment solutions, savings products, credit, or insurance. It works across geographies. We have an example from Southeast Asia, South Asia, Africa, and also Latin America. And so I'll just touch upon some of these. When it comes to payments, if you're in the payment industry, you can use women-centered. One example was of how do I build capability, women's capability to actually use some of the products I have there. How can we build nudges or incentives to help her build a habit? With respect to savings, how can I welcome her and reward her for saving small amounts in my bank account? Or how can I make the agent more relationship-oriented so that he or she could support her through her savings journey? Many banks need gender sensitization training to ensure that their staff at their branches welcome their women customers, understand their needs, especially of women MSMEs, so that they come up with customized solutions for their businesses. Oh, and of course, women-centered design helps you develop structured products, innovative products for your customers. And this is a perfect place for us to now introduce my co-host from SAFCO Finance, who'll take you through their journey in women-centered design. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Syed Sajid Ali Shah, who's the Managing Director of SAFCO Microfinance Company. He is an accomplished professional with extensive experience in leadership roles across various organizations, bringing over 20 years of experience in the financial services sector. He holds a master's degree in financial management and public administration. He's passionate about economic empowerment, particularly for low-income households, women, and youth, and has executed numerous projects funded by the World Bank, IFAD, investment companies, IFIs, commercial banks, and the government of Pakistan and provincial governments. Welcome, Mr. Shah, to the conversation, and would love to hear from you.
Thank you, Ms. Palvi, and thank you for the GGSF Fund for onboarding SAFCO for this great conversation. So let me introduce about SAFCO. SAFCO is one of the leading non-banking microfinance company here in Pakistan, which is being regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. So we have been engaged in microfinance sector, particularly more than 25 years. We started our journey as a non-government organization, then transformed the institution as a microfinance institution, and now working as a for-profit company, as a private limited company in the microfinance sector. SAFCO is one of the client protection certified institution and have been awarded by the government of Pakistan, Central Bank, SECP, and many international institution by recognizing its intervention for the impact creation and women onboarding so far. So currently we are having around 155,000 active borrowers and more than 20 million US dollars loan portfolio. We are working in southern East Pakistan, which is actually the Sindh region, and having around 70 branch operations and focusing on the access to finance. We've been served more than 1 million households with around 38 billion PKRs, and most of the women, borrowers are women, particularly over 70%. So we are working by envisioning to empower communities through sustainable financial solutions, and our approach is on women-centric approach. So with regards to context, what problem actually we try to address particularly. So you see Pakistan is one of the country which is still facing some sort of, barriers for the women, particularly in the rural areas. The community is very much faithful society in terms of Muslim understanding. And there are some, pertaining challenges for the women in terms of having the social norms and restrict of the mobility. And so far, they are mostly uneducated and mostly low financial, literacy pertaining to their understanding on financing. So you can see here we have mentioned sort of, statement of the borrowers that what actually they, face some sort of intersecting barriers pertaining to financial inclusion. So they were having limited collateral issues. They were having not engagement with the male business development officer, and there are not permission to women to interact with male and go to market with independent approach so far. So that particular context has actually creates sort of an enabling environment for the women with regards to financial inclusion. Secondly, apart from in terms of the provision of the product and services, SAFCO had already some sort of standard financial products which were actually offered to those males and women's, particularly in its area, where we were focusing on the micro enterprises loan and agriculture based loan. But certainly those were based on very much cosmetic and standard repayment cycles and the standard collateral for males and females for every business. So it was sort of, the product was misappropriated for the particular women's need and demand so far. So we had also some sort of, the social safety net product in terms of having the insurance, but it was more focused on only life, and which is actually the covering the loan portfolio of the institution. It is not pertaining to support the borrowers when they are facing the, shocks, particularly on the climate level, and, the women faces the challenges in the emergencies like maternity care and some sort of, losses of the family illness so far. And one of the biggest challenge was particularly to have, women human resource in the institution, because, whenever you are working in the rural areas, particularly when there is a low literacy rate and, the women are not being allowed to get an education. So you are having in difficult, perspective to engage women as a field officer in the institution. So we had only 15 to 18% women staff with us to interact with the, female segment, which is being targeted up to 70%. So what we actually done, we done a research with more than 300 women clients who actually been engaged before, particularly transforming the approach for the women intervention. So there were many areas in which we got the very, comprehensive responses, but we synthesized those areas into a three key, directions which are helping us to design the women inclusive products so far. So we actually understand that, the women who are actually home-based workers, who are having these seasonal businesses, and they are having, different cash flows. So they were not before receiving some sort of, need-based ticket size of the loan, the repayment, which was not aligned with their cash flows, and the support from institution in terms of grace period was very much generic and standardized. And certainly, more importantly, there was focus on the, individual borrower instead of, group, onboarding the group of the common businesses so far. And many women borrowers, we observe that they are just engaging in receiving loan, repaying, and not growing their businesses so far. So we realized that there should be sort of, the, uh, skill processes for the women, as they can be engaged and they can get an access to finance with the skill development accordingly. And thirdly, we realize that there are some, human resource constraint, and we can have a sort of solutions to bring sort of women as an women leader, women engagement, as we can, continue with the process to have sort of engagement with the borrowers in terms of providing the financial inclusion accordingly. So we focused on the women field officers, which are having sort of, the private space, and they can increase their trust and the sustainability of the customer engagement.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I think I got I got logged off, and I hope you can see my screen again. Syed.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Okay, lovely. So, and I'm glad I got locked off at the time when you were speaking, and I didn't need to speak. So that's that's a relief. But so Syed took you through the context of that SAFCO has, and the design directions that came up. And I've asked him not to really reveal the solution, because what we actually wanted to do is we wanted to break out in teams. And I think we have around 5 to 8 minutes, Nawal. And we'll post what you need to do in the team in the chat so that you remember. But if you could put yourself in Mr. Shah's shoes and imagine if you were SAFCO, what would you do? And what are some of the initiatives you would like to launch to deepen women's engagement? And also think about, the customer's needs, the challenges he spoke about, but do also explore whether the solution that you're imagining is practical and something that Safco could actually launch in the market. So with that, Naval, would you be able to break us up into teams and also post the question, which is what could the possible engagement initiatives be for Safco to address these challenges?
The questions are already in the chat, and I will proceed now with the breakout rooms. You'll have to click on it as Zoom asks you if you want to move to that room. So you just have to click yes, and then it moves you to the breakout room.
Okay, so I think almost all of us are now back. Um,
Not yet. I think we still have 30 seconds. It's bringing people slowly
okay.
from the rooms, but I think some people are still in room 1 and 2, essentially.
Mhm.
Room 3 is fully back in here.
Mhm. Hold on.
Everyone is back now.
Okay, welcome back. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for participating in this quick impromptu breakout session. We had some lovely ideas in our group, and I think I'm going to now share the grand reveal. Mr. Shah, you can now reveal what you actually developed, and feel free to for everyone else to add their ideas in the chat. Yes, Syed, over to you.
Thank you. And, it was very great discussion in the group so far. Many pertaining suggestions we've been received from the, participant. And it's good to see that we all are, as a practitioner and investor, are aligned with the approach so far. So what we actually, taken as a solution for the our products and services. So we actually refined our women-centered product from the, offering that was having with us before, and we actually made a tailored and customized loan product for the women, which were focused on the businesses. Those were actually bringing the women into a headed business, particularly. So we actually launched some customized woman product based on the income cycle and the business dynamics of the women businesses. So those were actually focused on unsecured, particularly. We just have a collateral as a social collateral of the borrowers that are having the common businesses, particularly in the area, and we actually removed the collateral condition from the product that was before we required from the women. And we also have made particularly a flexible repayment loans for the women. Earlier, we had only fixed 12th monthly equal installment loans, but when we saw that the women's have, cash flows on the quarterly basis, women has the cash flows as a bullet on the 6 monthly basis, and there are 9 monthly crop cycle loans, cash flows. So we actually tailored and customized repayments based on the cash flows that women's are having with their businesses so far. Also, we also, give some sort of, the grace period pertaining to when they are injecting the loan amount into business and from where they are actually cultivating the income. So that particular gap has been given as an, the grace period, as women can feel free to invest their loan amount into their businesses and get in, the income from pertaining so far. So, actually, the tailor-made and customized product was not fielded as a solution. We also work on the combo solutions, particularly on the women micro insurance perspective as well. So before we were just having the life insurance and we are just covering our loan portfolio, but we again thought that we should have sort of solution in terms of reimbursement of the losses from the insurance based on the losses of the communities or the borrowers and particularly women so far. So we introduced some sort of the health insurance to align with the women's maternity period as well as, the claims were reimbursed based on the period that they are not having businesses continuity just because of, the health concern. We as a country are climate prone country, so we are always having every second year we are receiving the flash rains, floods so far. So those climate hits are also, damaging the asset of the women borrowers. So we provided them livestock insurance, which is bundled with the livestock loan. We provided crop insurance, which is actually area yield insurance and the weather index insurance. We also given them some OPD coverage of the health benefits, so on. So the every missing dot was connected with regards to a customized loan in terms of the coverage of the hit they are receiving so far. And along with this, not only, the customized product and micro insurance solution, we also establish a women incubation center in our institution, which has actually helped the women, particularly in terms of having the skill development. Most of the rural women are working on the handicraft, tailoring, the livestock management. So we actually given the skills to, connect their skill with the demand side because supply has to be engaged with the demand side. So they should aware that what actually is demand of the market as they can, develop their products accordingly. So we also, give them sort of mentoring in terms of entrepreneurship as they can have a business counseling and they can understand the market requirement and they can compete in the market accordingly. So we also in the women incubation center we are linking their product with the markets and we are facilitating them exhibition support so far. So we actually align those skills along with credit and micro insurance as their capacities and market linkages can be established on the essential side so far. And one of the pertaining initiative that we took that is establishing of the women exclusive branches. So actually this initiative has bridged the gap between social norms, social barriers, and the trust that women was needed. So we appointed all the staff as a woman in each branch, which starts from the regional manager, branch manager, business development officer, branch accountant, MIS officer. Even tea boy is a woman tea maker, and the supportive staff as women can feel free to engage her in the area where she feel comfortable, she can interact freely and she can get an information accordingly. We also provided sort of the relation in between the women borrower and the staff as they can understand the demands and as we can support them in terms of the supply particularly. And certainly that required the sort of the women leadership to with regards to its staff and connectivity in a way. So we also introduced some sort of internship programs for the women, particularly as they can be part of SEFCO team and support us to bring more women our inclusive particularly products so far. So these all factors have been, supported us in terms of, providing sort of solutions as women can feel, the comfortability accordingly. So when we thought about the institutional approach towards, gender initiative, so we actually created sort of, the governance mechanism in terms of the product because the products should have sort of engagement of the borrower. So always we had focus group discussions with the borrowers that what actually they needed and what actually they wants to provide them. So gender impact assessment before the product launch, and the results were actually the positive in terms of the designing of the product accordingly. So the governance structure, particularly to frame the product, which is actually the important so far. And ultimately, to interact with the women, we envision to increase the women staff in our institution, and particularly at the level of loan officer and business development officer. So we introduced internship program. We restructured our hiring policy specifically for the women. We normally we used to onboard graduate staff on our the HR policies, but we actually created sort of a provision for the women to onboard on at the matriculation level and intermediate level. And local staff was actually preferred to have in those areas. So actually, we try to build women leaders across the operations to strengthening the women inclusion accordingly. And one of the key area that was institutionalized, which is actually the KPIs. So from the business development officer till the management, the governance and the board of director has decided to somehow the KPIs pertaining to gender, initiative and gender policy. So each of the staff have their own KPIs. Likewise, at the BDO level, he or she has to, disperse more up to 70 or more than 70% women on every month target so far. So that KPI has been integrated into MIS. And when there is a review at the quarterly level or 6 monthly level or, the annual appraisal so far, so we are actually, following and measuring the KPI through outreach, through uptakes, and through retention, and certainly the impact so far. So that particular area also help us to, synthesize the synchronization of the initiative accordingly. And always there is a capacity building and talent hunting, which is actually supporting us. So we actually target in between that we should have at least 35% women staff with our, operations to have, ensure that we are centric with the women and we are centric with the staff so far. So these gender intentional institutional initiative has supported us a lot by bringing the numbers, which actually is the result so far. We can go to the next slide. We can see how actually been these piloted has given us result. We observed that more than 20% growth, particularly in women outreach on annual basis. There is the uptake of 60% women in terms of the micro insurance. So we work on the awareness, we work on the affordability, and we work on adoptability of the micro insurance solutions. And when you are receiving the benefits, and certainly the impact has also been occurring. With regards to Women Incubation Center, more than 1,200,000, women have been trained, and mostly the new entrepreneurs and particularly the youth and young girls have been engaged in the businesses, and they are actually running now their successful businesses so far. And the tricky and important point here is, which is actually the repayment behavior and the repayment culture, which has been supported us and to bring some sort of realization in women as women, which has already been observed, but it is helping us to, give the realization to male borrower, which are right now 28% with us. They can see that how women are actually the responsible in terms of the utilization of loan and in terms of the repaying of the loan. So we've been out of these 99%, 95% women are paying their installment on time through digital networks. They are using the mobile account. They are using the alternate delivery channels at their doorstep. They are not supposed to visit our branch or visit commercial bank to deposit into accounts. They are just having the QR code with them, and there is a retailer shops in their villages. So they are just going for the purchasing the grocery. At that time, actually, they are paying the installment to Safco. They just have to say we are supposed to pay the installment to Safco. They are just scanning the QR code and they are receiving the auto receipt on their mobiles and so on. So actually, these results are actually giving us more encouragement to more focus on women-centered product and provide sort of, the institutional way forward to particular area that we should have worked in. So in terms of the way forward, we are actually in process to scale our women exclusive branches, and wherever there is inclusivity of the women up to 50%, we just stop onboarding male borrowers, and now we are only women focused intervention in those areas. This doesn't mean that we are not providing loans to women and we have just excluded women male from our portfolio. There are some specific customized product for the males, which are actually been given to them. But the focus on the women is actually supporting the overall entire society as well as household so far. So we are establishing, the window of the women incubation center in each women exclusive branch. As they can get benefit on the skill side as market linkages and access to finance accordingly. We are engaged with our regulator to introduce some digital savings because being a non-banking finance company, there is a rule in Pakistan, if you are not a bank, you cannot take deposits. So we are trying to, utilize our footprints, trust with the borrower and engaging with the regulator to introduce some sort of the digital saving products which are actually as a pattern to ensure that cash flows are being saved, not being utilized accordingly, because we are having practice to mobilize saving and depositing into banks, but now we are trying to have digital accounts with the women as they can get any time withdraw from the saving and get benefit. And certainly we realize that partnership is actually the way forward. And SAFCO cannot do everything. SAFCO has to create a partnership. So we've been partnered with the insurance companies, we've been partnered with the skill development companies and skill development institutions and the regulator and the bank so far. So we are actually enhancing the partnership to collaborate each other for making sustainable income growth in the women borrowers as well as market linkages. And always there is a institutionalized designs particularly. So the women centric design should be in a way to develop with the innovation, in a way develop with the gender equitable outcomes as the perspective can be established accordingly. So we always welcome to partners and supporters to join us with the impact that we are trying to create among the community so far. So the way forward is very much optimistic and clear. So here are some key reflection which Palvi already mentioned in her women-centric design development. So empathetic design always wins. So we are witnessing with that perspective that the women voice has to be encountered and has to be listened, and you should have leveraged those voices accordingly. So leadership actually matters so far. So we have visible leadership commitment at our end to drive the resources which are being allocated for the gender perspective, and we also introduced the KPIs, so accountability is also there. And certainly, flexibility and dignity in terms of the product and respective to privacy is one of the key areas. And we actually, find out one of the key solutions that a cross-functioning approach among the institutions and the department is very much essential. So you cannot go to run in a one-way side, but you should have, complement each other to collaborate and to bring sort of the impactful outcomes into systems and processes so far. So in last, which is actually the last slide, that SAPCO has some more future commitments. We feel that we have done so far a great job, but it is still a long way to go in terms of the women centricity. We want to bring 100% women portfolio in our institution. We want to have 100% women centric institution. So institutional integration in terms of the gender inclusion is the SAPCO's strategy. We wanted to have gender-centric governance and gender-centric designs of the product and so this women-centric approach related. So we are ambitious with the target, as I mentioned, that till now we are 70% on women's side, but by June 2026, we wanted to increase a percentage of women borrower more than 80%. And the most of the ecosystem and frameworks which are aligned with the approach, and we are not only only have our own institutional framework, but we are trying to link that framework with the national financial inclusion strategy of the Pakistan. We wanted to engage that framework with the DGS Gender Action Plan and the World Bank, Women World Bank framework that is actually giving the best practice so far. So we want to align our approaches with those frameworks as the global and the practices can be helpful. And lastly, the holistic access is actually one of the key commitments of this approach. We would like to have combined financial and non-financial support to the borrowers, specifically women, to promote, the agency network and economic participation of the women account. So we as a for-profit institution now plan to offer, shareholding to our borrowers as they can purchase the shares of the company and they can become the owner of the institution and the partner of the institution. So this is all about that SAPCO is trying to engage their women borrowers in their, the capacities and engagements so far.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. And you've so beautifully incorporated women-centered design in your philosophy, and it's so evident that it's working for both your customers and for your business. And thank you for sharing this, very comprehensive case study. And I hope it's really inspiring. It's definitely inspiring for me as a practitioner to see all of it being implemented in the field. So we have time for a couple of minutes in case anyone wants to go off mute or to ask a question. Or you could also type your question in the chat box and we'll be very happy to take any questions we have. Can possibly take a question or two before we close the call. You can also go off mute to ask your question. Okay, so in case there are no further questions, what I do want to leave behind is to all of you on this webinar is do invest in understanding and developing products for women customers, because frankly, it makes business sense. We in fact shared this case study earlier in the morning to another time zone, wherein we were asked about the business results. You didn't mention that, Mr. Shah, but your women exclusive branches actually on their own also stand out in terms of business results. A lot of women-centered design makes business sense if you do it correctly. And so do invest in women as your customers. Before we close the call, I wanted to remind all of you for our upcoming webinars. We have our next webinar on Jan 20th. It's on gender data and assessing progress and tracking impact. And, you can use the QR code to please save the date and join us at our next webinar. And before I close the call, I wanted to thank you, Mr. Shah, for being such a wonderful co-host. And I wanted to thank all those of you who have joined this webinar. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pallavi, and rest of the participants for great contribution. And we look forward to receiving the suggestion from everyone.